Having really good security is no accident. I mean, imagine if we just went and we told everybody, hey, do as good as you can with security, keep things safe. Well, without education and training and information on what to keep secure and how to do it, it's not going to be very effective. So one of the key elements of having good security in our organizations are having policies. And in this nugget, I'd like to chat with you about several of the types of security policies that we want to have in place at the very top of our organization. So when we talk about policies in general, there may be policies that are organization-wide or for a certain system or for a certain situation, but policies come from senior management. That's where they need to come from, and then they need to be implemented as procedures and followed instructions to be carried out. So one of the policies that we're going to want to have is a policy regarding access control. So as part of our access control policy, we don't have policies regarding physical access, things like how do you get into the building, how do you get into the room, how do you get into the wiring closet, things like that. And also logical access control. What's required for this person to get access or to log on or to access this router or this switch or this system and make changes. And regarding changes, that reminds me of another policy, which would be our change management policy. And that would govern any changes in the system. So if we have a user like Bob, who wants to change something or needs something changed on their computer, or if the network device like a switch or a router or a firewall, the change management policy should be followed to make sure that any changes are not going to introduce harm or vulnerabilities into our network. And some of our devices, which aren't tethered, like a mobile device, like a laptop or a smartphone, also need to have guidance regarding how to keep those devices safe. So another policy that we should have in place is a mobile policy. And then when we're implementing something new, whether it's a mobile device or a switch or a router, we should use baselines and standards for best practices for how to implement those devices securely, which also should be dictated, at least the concept of using baselines and best practices as part of the policy. And as we consider Bob for a moment, we also ought to have AUPs, which is an acronym for Acceptable Use Policy, which details what the users are allowed to do and not do and their responsibilities regarding the data and systems that they're entrusted with. So an AUP, an acceptable use policy, should be understood and then signed probably every year by every employee or every individual who works with the data and our systems. And in that AUP, it's very likely to explain some of the policies in the organization regarding how we're handling data and how we're controlling access, including passwords, or however we're authenticating users. So there should be password policies. And while we're at it, email policies and retention policies. Now, retention regarding data. So if we have data that should be gotten rid of or disposed of after a certain period of time, everybody ought to know what that is. There should be a policy dictating that. Or if we're getting rid of a device, let's say we take the server and we're going to get rid of it, what is the immediate disposal process to securely remove that device and its data from our network? And also retention isn't just about, how to get rid of the data, but it's also maybe requirements on how long to keep the data. Now, occasionally things happen, and when a user sees something, they do need to say something, and that way we can become aware of it. Now, another policy that should be in place is an incident handling policy, so that every user, if they click on a link they think's gone bad, or they think they're being socially engineered, or they've done something else, or they see something else in the workplace, they need to know exactly how to report that. And that way the powers that be can investigate and get in and take care of the problem as quickly as possible. Because an untrained user who doesn't know how exactly to report an incident, or they may feel bad about it, that could cause the problem to get bigger and bigger. Also, associated with incident handling, a policy for that, we'd also want to have policies for vulnerability management and risk assessment in the organization as an ongoing effort. So having those policies from the top in place at an organization is the starting point for being able to implement secure program elements in our organization. So in this video together, we've taken a look at a sample of a few policies that should be in place. And in the next video, I'd like to take a look at one of the most significant vulnerabilities in almost every single organization and how we can help reduce that risk. And that is user awareness and training. I'll see you in the next video. Meanwhile, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.